My name's Gail Sagman. I'm a painter and we are on the Dorset-Devon border near Lyme Regis. When I got this building, I appropriated its name, which was the Jam Factory, because I thought that was really appropriate for people coming here to work together in a jam session type way. I was in art school in the 70s, and by the end of art school I had tried out many different things. I really didn't know quite what I was doing, and then I was painting a ceiling, and the roller I was using was broken and it created these lovely marks, and I decided to try this on canvas. I would build up slowly and I would retain areas of the raw canvas, and then I may rub charcoal into the paint and it would take in certain areas depending on what the surface was. And it was at that moment that I decided my process of making artwork, making paintings, I needed an exciting surface to respond to. It's almost like the challenge was to make anything work. I like to see how many ways there are of making an abstract piece of work. And when I say abstract, it's not abstracted from, it's not an abstraction from anything representational. It's actually constructed in the abstract, within the language of painting, with reference to line and plane and tone and edge, and it sounds very dry, but all these elements fascinate me. You can look at a lot of the work and you can see many different influences, and I have done a homage, 19 works to different artists who have given me new freedoms. These pieces were all made at once. I didn't necessarily consider before making them who I was going to make that a homage to, but as I'm developing the work, I start to realise that there's an element of that person that I would like to bring in there. I really feel connected to the Cubists, Russian constructivists, the early abstractionists, Kandinsky, Klee. I feel indebted to these people. The piece that was dedicated to Paul Klee is called Bowerbird, because I felt that the way he constructs his pictures, and maybe the one I've made reflects that a little bit, is that he plucks from here, there and everywhere elements. And the bowerbird's a very plain little brown bird, and it has nothing to attract its mate, so it actually does collect shiny objects and beetles and whatever it might be, and creates a picture or a sculpture or piece to attract its mate. I thought that was rather charming. In some instances, like when I was working in the Himalayas with people in Nepal, I came back with their stories, and as I was making works, some of the things that they had said would come into my mind, and at that point there is a kind of free association. There's a particular piece that is hanging from the ceiling, and it's a sculpture, and that I decided to call Himalayan Tree because it had some essence of the forlorn, very few dead trees that are left in the mountains. Sometimes I think that the work is cyclical. I might realise that 20 years ago I was working in a particular manner, and having gone through lots of different methods and approaches and processes, I might go back to that initial way of making work and start again in that. I have an awful lot of work, and I do not like thinking of myself as such a material person. And because I have to continue making, I'm aiming to make work in the environment that doesn't actually have to remain there. I might spot something out there and I might add a thread to it and start to make that a drawing, so to speak. And I can use the shadow, and the shadow becoming a positive, becoming a line in itself, so that when the sun is gone, actually the work doesn't remain either. I know when a piece is finished because it stops irritating me. Otherwise, when I look at it, it keeps inviting me to do something. And when I realise that I've stopped looking at it and I barely remember it's there, then I know it's finished somehow.